future.
Great, thank you very much, Ed.
Sure.
And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. As Ed said, I am David Grosso. I'm the at-large council member, so I represent the entire city. I'm also one of the independents on the council. I have been there for 2 years now, which has been an eye-opening experience, even though I worked there for 6 years before with Councilmember Sharon Ambrose from Ward 6. And so I had my kind of feet were already on the ground, ready to run, and came to realize that it's a little bit different as a council member than a staffer. So it's been 2 years, I think, though, of some great successes, and we're looking forward to 2 more years in this term before we have to run for re-election again. So a couple of things I wanted to note. One of the, I think, reasons why this is good timing to meet with you all is I did do a significant amount of research this summer on housing issues in the city. One of the realities that we're facing with is the fact that everybody's talking about homelessness, everybody's talking about affordability, the change in our city, how it's completely evolved from when I was growing up here in the 80s. And so we thought we would take some time, and Katrina Forrest, who's with me, is the staffer on my team, an attorney who did a lot of the research with me on this to talk about the history of the city, to understand better what we need to do to move forward to a place where we can be a city that's welcome to everybody who's both been here as well as a lot more people. If you don't remember anything about me, you'll remember that I want there to get back to 800,000 plus people in the city. I think we could do it. I think we could do it without a whole lot of headache. And so that's some challenge we have. It's been exciting to watch 1,000 people a month come into the city. I think it's probably tapered off, but you guys can tell me better than I know that. And so we have a long way to go to get to 200,000 more, which I think would make our city a better city in the long run. So the culmination of the work we did over the summer, aside from, we also visited mental health facilities, we did a bunch of work in urban gardening this summer, but we published a 3-part blog on housing, and it's at my website. I didn't bring them all here today, but you can check them out if you feel like it. It's at DavidGrosso.org. And the third part of it was a joint blog that Katrina and I did on recommendations for how we move forward with housing issues in the District of Columbia. So I would really encourage you to read that part, if nothing else, and then send me your suggestions, your thoughts, your ideas. I need input. I need to know what the impact will be on the ground of these ideas. They're not any, I don't have any legislative proposals except for the one that I just introduced a couple weeks ago at this point, but there are some ideas that I think can be done without legislation. If you know anything about me, you know that I try to be really curbed on what I introduce because I just don't feel like more laws are necessary. We have an executive branch that doesn't implement most of the laws that are already introduced. So for me, it's about oversight, it's about engaging. I did, though, much to my surprise, introduced 82 bills in 2 years. But it wasn't me. We only did 40 some of them. The rest are co-introductions that I joined my colleagues with. And really, it's an interesting tool on the council and how you get to work with your colleagues is if you support what they're doing and you can engage on an introduction of a bill or co-sponsor a bill, that sends a message to them that you're listening and that you're being a participant. We're also doing, I'll just note, we haven't put it out yet, but we're also doing an effectiveness scale. I don't think council members do this enough. They do it up on the Hill, so I've adopted my own plan this year where I'm actually looking at the bills, the 82 that I introduced, and seeing how many of them had any movement at all in the council, whether they had a hearing, a markup, or became law. At this point, 21 out of the 82 have become law that I introduced. And so, you start seeing how you measure up to everyone else and whether or not you're being effective with your colleagues. I think a big kind of, I guess, fear when people were deciding whether or not to vote for me and support me when I was running was whether or not I would be able to engage in a way that was meaningful with my colleagues. And there was good reason for that fear because I was out there talking about ethics, and about good government from that perspective. And it wasn't making my colleagues very happy because I was on the outside giving them a hard time for passing pathetic bills and not working full time and things like that. We've come a long way in 2 years, I think, on the council, and we have another big jump we're going to make in January in regards to ethics and accountability, which we can get into if you guys want to in the Q&A session. I will note here quickly on the side note, I am only endorsing one candidate in the at-large race, and it's Robert White. I worked with him in Congressman Norton's office and actually hired him there. I think he is going to be a smart, reasonable, measured council member, which is, I think, what we all want up there. So a couple of points that I'm making, and I'll make now, and then I want to open it up. You know, I'm much better at answering questions than I am at talking. So one of the biggest things I thought that we should do is create a standalone committee for housing in the district council. Now, there's been dabbling with this in the past, but it's never been significant. And what I think we ought to do is we ought to move the deputy mayor for planning and economic development, move him over to finance and revenue into that committee, create a committee on finance and economic development, and then we ought to have a committee that solely focuses on housing issues. So it goes from homelessness all the way to home ownership. So we deal with issues that, you know, yeah, maybe the shelters need to be revamped, maybe we need to close one and rebuild, we need to think about that. But in the same context, we're not going to get people completely out of the struggles that they're getting unless we're also looking at the other end of the spectrum, which is how do we get people into home ownership? Home ownership is the American dream for a reason, because it gives people the opportunity to leverage what they own to create more wealth for themselves and do better in society. So there's a spectrum. I think there needs to be an entire focus on that by one council member. And so I've made this recommendation to the chairman of the council. As you all know, the committee structure is such that he gets to make it all up on his own in some dark room by himself, and the rest of us just get to hope that he does the right thing. I'm a big fan of lobbying him on this stuff, so if you care about this, go ahead and call him and tell him, you know, what you think you ought to do. Housing has been a sideshow for development, and I know it works, there's big projects and stuff, but how do we get in front of the game? How do we start to incentivize things like neighborhood development from the beginning? Back when I worked for Sharon, H Street was still completely, I mean, completely underutilized, and it was a very dangerous place to hang out. That wasn't that long ago. But Sharon, I think, Ambrose, saw the vision there of putting Atlas Theater, of trying to incentivize other positive changes to the neighborhood, like more streetlights or better curbing or things like that, that would bring businesses there, that would bring kind of incentives there for people to then invest there. And not just invest in restaurants, but now you see what's coming in now with some of the development and really significant amounts of housing and other projects around retail, you know, that is so important. So the question for the council is, how do you push that forward? How do you push a comprehensive approach forward? The Economic Development Office, ever since I was the committee clerk there, I don't think it's fully grasped that need for that. And instead, it's a one-off project. Usually big developers come to them and say, we need this incentive, we need this done, and then they figure out how to get it done. I'm not saying there's not a place for that. I just think that it should be more focused around housing issues. So maybe the deputy mayor for economic development shouldn't even be in that conversation. They should come in after the deal's already moved down the pipeline. So I'll note one other thing that, and then I want to open it up. I had I've put a lot of effort, and some people might wonder why, but I've put a lot of effort this year into the creative economy. I created a group called DC Arts Action Group, which is made up of about 60 individuals and leaders in the arts community, from theaters to the Fringe group to all sorts of different groups, galleries, everybody. And the reason I'm doing this is because I really think it's an untapped, not just jobs place for jobs, but also an untapped engine for the economy that can help spur more people to come here. And if you look at, for example, the H Street Festival, I keep bringing up H Street, but you know, if you look at that festival, 5 years ago, it wasn't a festival. I mean, this was the first 5 years. They've gone from maybe 10,000 people to, how many were there, 200,000, 250,000? I mean, unbelievable amount of people coming there. Not because they want to go get crowded on H Street. I can't even go to it anymore. It's just so many people. But because they want to hear the music. They want to be engaged in the art that's going on there, engaged in the movement. That's why we need to, I think, focus a whole lot of energy on the council, on the creative economy, and on building the creative economy. From tech to art, like fine arts, to theater, to music. We need to be doing this. So I created this group. We've been meeting monthly for the past 9 months, and just launched a website as well as Twitter and Facebook, where we're really moving forward to try to advocate for the arts at the council and the executive branch in a way that can really spur development around the city based in the arts. So that's just one of the passions that I have on the council, and something that I'm going to be working on a lot. Finally, the first-time homebuyers tax credit. You all know that I introduced this bill just a couple months ago. We worked closely with the office, with Ed's office and others. I don't really want to talk much about that bill. You know about it, but what I want to say about that bill is, if you have any doubt about what kind of legislator I am and what kind of policymaker I'm going to be, I hope that you'll understand that I'm the kind of person that is going to reach out ahead of time, work closely with the business community, with the advocates, with everybody involved, to try to come up with some ideas that will actually move our city forward. I'm not the kind of person that is going to just jump out there with my idea because I think it's not effective. And so I'm more into engaging in a collaborative process. I promised you I would do this when I was running for office, and I feel like that bill and the work we did on that bill demonstrates that that's how I'm going to be operating, how I've operated, and I'm going to be operating moving forward. So you can count on me to do that. That's only one bill. I mean, we have a lot of work to do in the city, and a lot of work to do in holding government accountable and making sure that it's an effective government. And so I'm open for more ideas. I'm open for more thoughts. That bill's not going to move this year. It's given us an opportunity to bring that issue to the forefront. We'll reintroduce it again in the new year and try at that point to get it to move forward. Like I said, I feel like I'm an effective council member because of the things I've been able to get done. I think we can get a bill like this through, and I think it may take us some time, but I think we can do it, and I think my colleagues will actually get engaged and be involved with it. So